For me, it came out of pure necessity. My mother's illness was so bad at that time, but I was in and out of hospitals, marking coursework. Most of my thesis, by the way, was written in hospital.
Sunday morning, I woke up in a mild form of anxiety attack, thinking I was going to tackle this week. There were times where it was hard, financially and otherwise. Things were hard.
What was my biggest weakness actually became my greatest strength. If you don't give up, I don't give up.
If anyone watching wants to learn things about how to do business and become founders and do stuff and make a good business, then start there.
I was coerced, blackmailed, harassed.
Don't wait for perfection. Invest the time. Yeah. There's so many different things that people can get wrong in so many different ways when they're starting businesses. I've done what I can do.
Yeah.
It's up to him.
Yeah.
Leave it.
Your clients become your boss. One thing I would say categorically with full conviction, doing a PhD has been far better training of becoming an entrepreneur than any MBA would ever do.
Did that come from a place of passion?
Welcome to the Unorthodox Founders Podcast. My name is Aamir Hussain. I am the founder of Age Creative Labs, a creative agency, and the co-founder of Rahma Studios, which is where we are at today. And I've got this wonderful gentleman here, who is...
I'm Salman Anwar, and welcome from me as well to the Unorthodox Founders Podcast. That's a mouthful.
That is, we might change it, but we'll see.
Yeah. I'm a tax advisor by profession, ex-HMRC Tax Inspector, also a founder of ADL Tax or ADL Tax, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be doing this podcast with Aamir.
Yeah, so the idea of this is that we should hear in this journey of many episodes to come, this is the first one, of how we don't have the traditional business background. And we thought it'd be fun to share our insights, journeys, to help inspire those who, again, are not traditional founders, to get either a belief, hope, or understanding of what we've learned and through our crazy roller coasters. So hopefully there'll be fun conversations, there'll be hilarious insights, and also some tips along the way that you might also benefit.
Yeah, so keep watching. We're recording this after having talked for an hour, so we've enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe and keep watching. Take my voice.
In true fashion, we've started this podcast. In the first few minutes, we forgot to press record. But what you missed is we were talking about something incredibly important.
Yeah.
It was what we ate before the podcast. So you haven't missed anything. Yeah. Don't worry.
At least we've got that mistake out the way before.
Yeah, because it's the first episode, so we can get all of it out of the way.
Get it out. But as long as we don't repeat it.
No, of course not. I think it is important to share that we started working together in November. And then we enjoyed working together, built a good rapport, and we thought we're both unorthodox founders, hence the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
And we're like, and especially for me, I've never done a podcast, I've always been behind the scenes actually. I was just speaking whilst you were having a meeting with Zahir that I think I've edited over 400 episodes in the past 3 years to get to this point where now the team are doing even better than I am. So now I have to be in front of the camera to showcase what we do and stuff like that. And it's amazing now to have you with me in this co-host for this podcast. I'm excited to share all number of war stories.
I've never co-hosted anything. So in terms of podcasts, I've been asked questions.
Yeah. And
I'll try and remember to actually ask you questions. Rather than just
what she's going to forget. This podcast is going to be Salman, basically. and that wouldn't be a problem at all. So I think in true fashion of being the Unorthodox Founders podcast, we both don't have, the traditional business background. Yeah. But for you, how did you start getting into entrepreneurship and business world?
Yeah, good question. I think first and foremost, when you say like we don't have the usual business background, I think that's changing now, right?
No, true.
So there'll be more people who will probably resonate with our journeys into business and becoming founders than probably did 5 years ago, even. Mm-hmm. Probably you could bring that time frame a bit less as well. So I think that's why we wanted to do this, isn't it? To relate to those people and to kind of, those who are thinking about it, give them our 2 pence. But yeah, I mean, where did I start? I mean, I didn't really have anything to do with what I ended up in eventually. So I didn't really think about tax advice as a career or anything like that. In my younger days, I wanted to be a doctor. So that was my academic journey. Yeah. And almost studied medicine. I say almost because I had an offer to study, didn't take it.
Right.
Regretted it. But then I say that, but It's
Do you
all regrets.
do you regret it now as a tangent?
No. Alhamdulillah.
Good. Alhamdulillah.
You know, it's Allah's way.
Yep.
He makes way for you. You end up where you're meant to end up, and that's it. So when I look back at it, probably a very good decision in the end. Haphazardly made, unintentionally made, but
It was meant to be.
it led to. I don't think I'd be sitting here as a GP talking to you about it. I just can't imagine me being into content if I was doing that and never met you. Like so,
True.
you know, it's interesting. You're talking about unorthodox founders. It's like when you think about your timeline and your journey through life, how many things happen that could mean you ended up in a place where
Don't get me
if you
started,
think,
man.
if I didn't go this way and I went that way, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. This moment wouldn't happen. But because Allah, it was meant to,
True.
and it's happening.
Alhamdulillah. Amazing. No, I agree with when you mentioned, you know, the amount of decisions that need to be made
Yeah.
to now for us to both be in this position. And you mentioned you did biomedical science, right, when you started?
Yeah, so in school days, I mean, really back to the beginning, I was born in Pakistan, came to this country when I was about 11 years old, secondary school main. Used to visit, so I did some primary school, but we never stuck around. Secondary school onwards, went through education and eventually kind of like started to realize, starting as, quite frankly, a dumb kid to start with, which is English wasn't my first language, all of that stuff. I was only ever good at maths, so I was like, everything else was rubbish, and then eventually started to do well academically. Went to a normal inner city Birmingham school. So by the time I got to that, I started to go, okay, I'm okay academically. Being brown, what do you think you're going to do? Accountant, lawyer, whatever. The typical journey. I was like, I love the thought of being a doctor because it went with my personality. I wanted to help. So that's where I was going with. And then eventually, when I was doing my A-levels, I applied for medicine. I got a place in the University of Liverpool. Didn't take it. Got a bit big-headed. I was like, I want to be closer to home. So instead of deferring it, I rejected it. I said, let's apply again. And then zilch, nothing. Didn't get one. So I then went to think, okay, what can I do to do medicine? So I was sold a dream by the University of Birmingham to say, come and do medical science. If you do well in your first year, you'll do medicine. First year came, was doing really well. No conversation, can't entertain it. Nobody transfers across. Thank you very much.
No way.
And then I just tanked at that point. I was like, forget this. So I went from a exemplary academic student to not knocking anyone who gets it, but I got a 2-2 in the end in my degree. And then it was a case of, what do I do?
And what did you do?
I bought and sold cars to start with. So I got fell into it. My cousin had a garage. I finished uni and he needed help at the garage. So I started hanging around with him.
Yeah.
Then kind of started in, because my mum's side is a huge car people, mechanics, garage, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I got into it sort of in my blood. Start getting cars, damage, repairs, worked in his garage. I got the bug from, before I started it, mom's car engine blew. And it was a 206. Oh. So my cousin was like, we'll bring it to the garage, we'll do it. And even more of a tangent, in between university, A-level and university, I actually did a gap year and I went and studied car mechanics randomly. Okay. Because I needed to pass some time and I thought I'll do a college course and it was available. My friend was about to do it. I was like, jump in, done it. So I thought, let's fix this car up. So me, my friend and my other cousin spent a weekend changing an engine on a car for the very first time. We had a box full of bolts left over, but the car worked and the engine worked. It was all good. And from there is where the whole sort of journey started. So I did cars for a few years, got married in 2011, so a couple of years after graduation, and I thought, need a job really. My wife was from Pakistan, so like I need a job for her to come over. I need to show all of that. So I then went and worked in a call center. So that was National Express Coaches. So worked there. Did about 2 years. Started to work my way up. Always been an ambitious person, I think. I'd like to think so.
I would agree.
And I am so. Yeah. So I'd like to push myself. So I went and done this call center role. Started to work my way up. Eventually, I don't know why they thought I could do it, but they gave me, I applied for it and they chose me to do operations manager. So I used to manage the coach network on my shift with a bunch of people who knew what they were doing, where I'd never done the job, but I became the manager for 6 months.
That would have been fun, yeah.
And I was managing the UK coach network for National Express coaches for 6 months. Funnily enough, the day I got that offer is the day I also had the offer to join HMRC's graduate scheme. So in this time, while it'd been good 3-4 years since I'd graduated, I used to apply for loads of graduate schemes, and HMRC's was one of the ones I was like, started to get quite keen on. If I'm being honest, it was for the money side of it more than anything.
Rightly so, fair enough.
And then I got both offers at the same time. So my decision at that point was, which one do I go? It's probably getting very deep for very early in our conversation.
No, look, this is unorthodox, so I think the podcast can be also unorthodox.
So I had that decision to make. So I was like, do it. So in the end, I went, I'm going to take both. So
you took both?
I took the operations lead because my HMRC wasn't signed for another 6-7 months. So I was like, I took that job. Yeah. I said, I'll take the promotion. Yeah. And obviously, I was always going to take the graduate scheme. Yeah. So I'd worked there for 6 months. A few months later, I feel bad about it looking back. It probably makes me sound like a mercenary, but I had to go back to my manager and say, listen, by the way, I'm leaving because I've got this graduate scheme job starting. Funnily enough, the HMRC scheme but paid better than even the operations manager's salary. No way. So I was actually still going up. So, and only if anyone knows anything about graduate schemes, they don't generally pay that well. No. HMRC is one of the good ones. And then that's where my career really started at 27, married, daughter had been born. No, daughter was on the way. So we talked about it earlier.
Yeah, we'll talk about it
later. My daughter was on her way.
Wow.
She was born in February 14. I started in September 13 at HMRC. So
there's a lot of similarities.
5-6 months.
We should come to obviously later. Yeah.
So that's where so my daughter was 5 months into a graduate scheme role at HMRC, juggling all of that. But alhamdulillah, since then, it's, obviously that doesn't take me to my business yet, but that's what started my tax career 13 years ago. So how did you get started, Aamir?
I think for me, what's funny is I had no intention of being an entrepreneur, didn't know what it was, wasn't too keen on being within the business side. Because for me, which I'll share, like I was in a simple public school, wanted to do medicine whilst I got to college. My head wasn't really screwed on because I was born with a speech impediment, believe it or not. So I used to have speech therapy for a good 5-6 years training when I was younger. Okay. So when I then started to when I went to university, and then I gave certain lectures because I had the honor to do so. I mentioned even then, this was when I was doing my biomedical science first degree. And I got a slight tangent, but a lecturer we were very close with, I said, look, I'm very keen on going down the academic route, which I did before obviously doing this. And he gave me the opportunity at 19 years old to give a lecture to the second years. I was in my final year to give the second year, which is unheard of, right? Yeah. He actually got in trouble later. But he did it as a way. And that was such a hallmark moment because what was my biggest weakness actually became my greatest strength. So now sitting here doing a podcast with you, thinking that I had speech impediment, like difficulties, speech and listening difficulties. I used to have earwax coming out of my ears in school. I used to get bullied for that in primary school. I slurred speech a lot because I used to talk too fast. So both the speech therapy and learning to talk slowly. When I talked about cadence, when we were talking about the YouTube videos earlier, all of that came from self-taught so then people could understand me, generally speaking. Wow.
Now you use that skill to help others be understood.
And as I've always wanted to be able to showcase a journey like today, because I think it'll be quite powerful for people to realize that, look, for me, speech was nowhere near a superpower or an advantage. It was a disadvantage back then. So it was throughout school, throughout secondary school, college, wasn't easy, even university. And then when I got to university, I wanted to do like medicine because again, health is a big thing for me. We'll talk about later in terms of what I've done to look after my mom and everything. And I then realized that I wasn't getting the grades for medicine. And again, just like you said, it was a blessing to not do for me also massively. Because I wouldn't have the autonomy and the ability to do what I do now and be more present than if I was in medicine or not running businesses, right? And at that point, I realized that, okay, research is, I think, a good fit for me because you have the autonomy, you have, no day's different. I didn't want something to be repetitive. That was my biggest kind of pet peeve back then. And then I embarked in doing a PhD in vascular pharmacology.
Nice.
And back then, obviously...
Nice and easy stuff.
Yeah, easy. It's very simple to do. Easiest thing to do.
And most people will realize this. I know what that
is. You know what that is. So
I did a dissertation on, well, my lab project in my final year was angiogenesis.
serious?
Yeah,
No,
yeah. So
that you never told me.
yeah, so it was on angiogenesis, and it was linked to
That's crazy.
what's the condition? See, yes, it's
I-
long word. I forgot now. I've got it still
Yeah,
at home. I
it's
haven't
all
thrown it away. But it's the during pregnancy, preeclampsia.
Oh, preeclampsia. Okay,
So
yeah,
it was
yeah.
linked to preeclampsia. So
way.
I did. That's what I did. So I did it on like VEGF receptors and stuff like that.
Nah.
I know. I know.
You know
what-
exactly.
yeah, I know. You went into pharmacology. Pharmacology. I find that
Yeah.
like I was. I don't want to sound big headed, but I was academically gifted.
Yeah, sure.
But I found pharmacology hard.
And so did I.
Found it hard. It was tough. But once you get your head around it, it's one of the most
Yeah.
enjoyable. bits
Even
of
now,
research.
because I mentioned earlier, like I was mentioning to Lana, who's here, who's sitting over there, who's helping to manage the podcast. Whilst we were talking, I mentioned it to him that it was what was a full-time job became a side hustle. So going back to the story, I did a PhD in vascular pharmacology. Very difficult because I didn't get paid to do my PhD. So a bit of a tangent. At the time, there were 3 scholarships for the university. There's something called the High Flyer Scholarship, where you get a full stipend, you get all the support, and you have to go through interview process. And I was one shortlisted down to 2. But they said that if you don't get it, you get this slightly less, but still fully funded scholarship. And then the last scholarship is a fees-only scholarship. So your fees are paid for, which I don't think you should be paying for fees to do a PhD. It's a different story. But there's no salary, there's no stipend. I didn't get the High Flyer Scholarship. And within a day, I realized, the middle scholarship was only for pre-planned PhD projects. My project was designed myself after my undergraduate dissertation.
Right.
And I pitched that to supervisors, that would you be willing to supervise me in a PhD? But that shafted me because it wasn't a pre-planned advertised job, I couldn't get any funding for it.
Wow.
Then I elected to go down a fees-only scholarship, which in hindsight was career suicide financially. Because doing a PhD is hard. Doing a PhD without any funding, like it's hard for funding for you to survive, and also funding for like lab costs, which you know also are not cheap.
Yeah.
Then the supervisors I had at the time, one wasn't, because the first part of my PhD was medicinal chemistry. Then the pharmacology, the testing the drugs as anti-angiogenic agents was the latter part. But I had issues with my supervisors. Then one wasn't like super present. One never kind of visited me in the chemistry lab because she was more the pharmacology side. And I was like, I'm not really getting support. And I had to work so many other jobs on top of doing the PhD.
Wow.
Just to try and make ends meet.
So do you have any time to sleep during that period?
Barely. I tell the story that because when you're doing a PhD, you share, you sometimes do demonstrations, you do lectures and stuff like that. So I remember leading for 2-3 years a diabetes pathophysiology module. So I was there to lead it, mark it. I used to mark that coursework bedside in the hospital next to my mom, who was on the nebulizer, because one of the reasons why I'm no longer in academia was because my mother's chronic illness of severe asthma was so severe that I would have to take so many annual leave days off to look after her, because she was in and out of hospital for 4 or 5 years whilst I was doing my PhD. So when we now talk about later on that business and patience and perseverance and stress and grit, I had to deal with that back then. So now that I'm grateful to have a baby, the no sleep, I've had it before. Although it's different. It's not the same. But my body's been geared and trained to deal with high stress, to deal with that patience, perseverance, deal with 6,000 different projects and all stress projects, deal with cash flow problems, all of that, because I had it back then.
So see, this is really important because we're quite a way into our discussion, but this is why we really thought this would be very useful, right? Because one of the key themes already you can see between, especially your story, and mine will come out as well, and I firmly believe this to be the case, but with your story for sure is that those challenges you had at the time, which looked like hurdles and whatnot, specifically led to skill sets being developed, perseverance, thick skin, the lot, like, you know, from, and we've not even touched on it in terms of your mom's illness, but, you know, just touching on your own speech impediment, the difficulties with the supervisors, and that led to development of skill sets, which eventually led to you becoming, you know, starting your own business, becoming a founder. And why that's important actually for what we're doing here is actually how much do people learn through that they don't realize is actually the set of skills, the very
Amazing.
skills that
Yeah.
they could use in business.
One thing I would say categorically with full conviction, doing a PhD has been far better training of becoming an entrepreneur than any MBA would ever do.
Wow.
Categorically, and I'll say it to the heart's content, because the skill sets required, like you just alluded to being a founder, to being an entrepreneur, were hardwired, ingrained through necessity in doing a PhD. So multiple projects at once, no day is the same, high stress, crazy amounts of uncertainty, dealing with other people, dealing with cash flow, because for me it was cash flow with inventory of lab stuff, trying to manage so many things at the same time. You don't know when experiments are not on the 9 to 5, you don't know when you're going to be finishing. Sometimes you have time points, which were 24, 48, 72 hours I have to go. I used to...
And you have to make sure you set up those petri dishes at a time.
Yeah,
you can do it at the right time,
yeah,
right?
I used to
you start at the wrong time.
Finished. What I used to do, sometimes there used to be time points where, this is an off-tangent story, but I'm a huge tennis fan, right? And sometimes the time points used to be at night. But I used to time it in a way that if, like the US Open, Australia Open, which are the time zone is late night, I would set up the time point. So then but I have to wait for the cells to incubate or whatever. I would then go sit. And when you're in university, for those who don't know, when you have out of hours access, it's like you have a mansion to yourself.
Yeah.
Because, and this is so weird, but I'll explain. I'm no longer there, so I can say it. I used to bring in my PlayStation 3 at the time,
Right.
connected to the projector, and my other colleagues who were also PhD students used to work late night with me. We ended up playing FIFA together on the biggest projector screen possible, whilst we're both waiting for experiments. So we're not wasting time. Yeah. We have to wait for the experiments to grow or cells to grow. Just time it. Being strategic in that sense was also ingrained back then. Yeah. And the biggest example I want to share about thinking outside the box and not conforming to, doing things on a regimental basis. Yeah. When we were waiting for stuff to do back in the day, and I also do it now, and you laugh at this, if you go in the lecture hall, when it's kind of tiered like that, right? So at the bottom, the top and the ceiling the distance is quite a lot, right? We ended up playing badminton in that space. I'm not even joking. I wish I had photos back then. We used to, over the lectern would be like the net. So we ended up playing badminton inside the lecture hall, inside the university, whilst waiting for experiments to run. So the whole notion of being kind of a maverick, of not conforming to for me, I just break rules all the time. If I want to do something, I'll just do it. If it doesn't look right or not. And the reason why I'm sharing that is there was all of these examples of just wanting to get stuff, try things, improvising. And then when I finished my PhD, how I got into doing this now was, for me, a lot of people go into business for many things, right? They want to solve a problem, something they want to do is not done right, so they end up doing themselves, or to carve out of having more autonomy. For me, it came out of pure necessity because, like you mentioned earlier, my mother's illness was so bad at that time, where I was in and out of hospital, marking coursework. Most of my thesis, by the way, was written in the hospital for my PhD. The majority of my thesis was written on my laptop, on my MacBook Air at the time, whilst my mother was in hospital. I used to have the copies of each chapter out, and I used to sit there, read it, get all the shredded comments from supervisors, whilst my mom was either sleeping or on an nebulizer. And I wrote I really want to emphasize this. If anybody ends up looking at my thesis for whatever reason, if you want to help sleep at night, if you go to page 6 and line number 8, it will say...
Can I just say something? Do not read the pharmacology-based stuff to sleep at night. It is
it probably make you nuts, to be fair. If you go to page 6, line number 8, it says there, if you don't give up, I don't give up. Because I mentioned me and my mom became so close because of that. I was dealing with difficulty in the PhD. She was difficulty with the illness. We said that, look, you don't give up on your health. I won't give up on the PhD. And we decided to help each other out. And then when that day I had my Viva and I passed it with minor corrections, the amount of emotions my mom and also I had when I ended up coming back home, because she felt relieved that her son did something that not many people generally are able to do, and got through with intense difficulties, with obviously not getting paid to do a PhD, dealing with my mom's illness on the day-to-day basis, and then trying to finish the PhD at the same time. So because after that, whilst I was doing postdocs after that, her condition has slightly improved, but it's still difficult. No job would allow me the flexibility to look after my mom. And I realized then, whilst I was making content on how to do a PhD, which is what started the creative journey.
What made you do that? What made you make content on that part?
I suffered a lot in my PhD. I didn't want other people to suffer.
Right.
So one of the best ways to showcase that, and because we were social media was I enjoyed tech.
When were we talking? What?
So we're talking about
time period?
2018, 19.
Okay.
I would say when I started on Instagram, on YouTube actually. Believe it or not, we have all this gear now, which is amazing. I started shooting video on an iPad. I bought like off Amazon an iPad holder. I already had an iPad. I was like, let me just shoot it on there.
Yeah.
Then a year later, I got an iPhone 11 Pro. I remember. So that's when I started shooting content about just science and health, something I find passionate about. Then I saw like these other content creators who are also PhDs all around the world, and ended up just sharing my content in the lab, stuff like that. And then started to snowball. It started to grow, and I started to enjoy the art of content creation. Then that snowballed into kind of side hustle. So then I kind of created a makeshift photography studio in my parents' kitchen. So I started to shoot kind of product photography because it was fun.
Yeah.
I just wanted to learn.
So you're pretty self-taught then in that respect.
All of what we do now is self-taught. Both the PhD and let me say this.
I suppose you learn that, right? When you do something research-based, you did it to a PhD. I didn't do a PhD. Right? I just stopped at that. And the fact is, doing that academic research teaches you to be
massive. That's why I'm saying that.
Because they don't teach you in those courses.
No,
right?
no, they don't.
Biomedical science is not a taught degree. It's you learn it yourself. It's a research degree for a reason.
Yeah. And I attribute to what I've been able to do to get to the businesses to this point was that analytical research mind of being methodical, but also analyzing patterns and trends. And the world of content is the same thing. Like you looking at it as like content engineering now, because like the hooks, the patterns, and all of that was ingrained to me back then. Yeah. And because of all the difficulty and the trauma I went through, it's hard ingrained in my brain on how to do all of this stuff. So it became super useful.
You can't forget it even if you
even if I tried. Yeah. Even like the drug names, I still remember on top of my head, like 2,5-dihydroxycalcone.
So I'll tell you this, I'm not that side.
I still remember all of it. Because I used to see this for 4 years in my brain, like drawing these chemical structures out. But back to the point, I went into business out of necessity to look after my mum.
Yeah.
But I mentioned it earlier in like a recent reel, it was the biggest blessing I could ever have, because now the autonomy, the creativity, working with people like yourselves, having the team. Now research is the hobby. It's a fun thing I can sit down in the coffee shop and enjoy without all of the stresses. I was coerced, blackmailed, harassed, all number of things throughout my academic career. That's not an enjoyable thing.
No,
and what's sad is, to end on, all of my colleagues who are like content creators around the world, so different disciplines, different countries, different areas of research, 90% of them are left academia for the same reasons. So it wasn't just me.
It's a sad reality, isn't it?
It's a very sad reality. So I'm blessed that I had this side hustle that then went from a hobby to a side hustle to a part-time job, full-time job, to then self-employed, to then now a business, to then now growing the other business, which is now Rahma Studios. And do you know what's remarkable? I went through biomedical science, vascular pharmacology, a postdoc in respiratory pharmacology, another one in post-operative immunology. Now I'm doing this. My father used to record Islamic khutbahs at masajids as a hobby back then. So now I've gone full circle to now doing what my father used to do. And we had Sheikh Abu Tamir who come to the studio. I was recording that. We had Sheikh Khalil do his graduation ceremony, and Lana was there and Wedi was there. I was doing the exact same thing my father did nearly 30 years ago.
Did you ever imagine yourself doing that when you were growing up?
I love tech. I didn't know I love video now. Like I would love to. Me and Lana were talking about short films, right? We were talking about documentaries. I would love to do that now. I didn't have that buzz, but when we did that graduation ceremony and we put it on the screen, I was sitting in the exact kind of place where my father would have sat, having the cameras where he would have sat, and recording that content.
Would you therefore say that what you ended up doing in your main business, Ace Creative, and to an extent Rahma Studios, did that come from a place of passion?
Initially, it was necessity that I needed, but the necessity was intertwined with the passion of mine.
Because you had a passion for it. The necessity came along.
Yeah.
Was it, because probably too deep a question for a podcast, no, sure. But I always treat podcasts when I've been on them as a guest as a therapy session mostly, right? Friday, so, because the necessity came along, but you had the passion.
I think
did you then did you go from necessity, right? I need to do something here to fulfill this thing that I've got, all of these things happening with your mom and everything else. Did you just go, okay, you know what? Not consciously necessarily. Was it just the thing that, okay, there's this thing that I'm really good at, and you just sort of went towards it, knowingly or unknowingly, pulled you in.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you were good at it and you had a passion for it, it grew.
Yeah.
Would that be right to
Yeah,
frame it
I would
like
say
that?
the passion, you're right, the passion was there at the start. That was just a hobby. But the necessity is kind of like the lens of the format in which I needed it to become. The necessity was I needed some sort of revenue stream where I had a bit more control over the autonomy.
But you didn't just do anything. You didn't go and drive an Uber or
Exactly.
whatever, right?
But
Not
I
knocking
intertwined it,
anybody.
yeah,
You
with
could
that
have.
passion. Yeah, you could have,
Necessity,
yeah.
people look for the most common thing that
Yeah,
others
the
are
most
doing.
efficient way to do
You
it,
didn't
yeah.
do that.
No.
This is what I was trying to get out.
Yeah,
from
no,
the
no,
question.
for sure. And it was, again, now looking back, it was high risk because it was a passion.
Yeah.
It's not technically back then the most efficient way to make use of my time because I had to self-teach myself to a point where people would pay me.
So the reason I was so intrigued with that point, and I want to bring it out, because look, I know we've known each other for best part of 6 months now, which is not a long time.
No,
but
to
we
be
worked
fair,
very
yeah.
closely in that period. But I'm learning bits about you, and it'll be vice versa. And I'm intrigued by it. And what I'm really intrigued by there is that you hear this a lot in the online business space, and with the gurus and everything else, the good, the bad, the ugly. One common bit of advice you get is try and make a business out of something you're good at and you're passionate about.
Very true. Very true.
Whichever one comes first out of
Yeah.
those two attributes
Yeah.
for that thing. So to me, listening to you, it does sound like knowingly or otherwise,
Yeah.
you followed that
Yeah.
to
100%
get to
get to this
what
point.
gave you that then ability to be able to kind of go, right, you know what? This helps me get to my end goal. Right?
For sure. I definitely agree that the passion was there of this creative outlet because it was an outlet to all of the difficulties and the trauma that was at the time. But then it naturally morphed into what it is now. And I think what's amazing is that how special that for me today is because this was nearly 7-8 years in the making that I would get to tell a story like this to inspire other people, share my story to help people realize that, look, I went from... So you couldn't go any further left in terms of business background, right? To get, but subhanAllah, Allah has a way to...
Academics is the very, I would even say the antithesis.
Yeah,
of
it's...
we can't pronounce that word. Sorry,
Yeah.
of ending up in business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not
It is.
not what leads to another. I've met plenty of professors and whatnot that were, generally speaking, ended up being decently paid. It's not the most well-paid profession. But you don't do it for the money.
No.
So you're never really geared towards business if you're in that field.
Yeah.
So to go from that extreme
To
a business, which is the other end of that spectrum, whether it's an extreme or not,
it is.
it's
It's quite
a change.
It is. And, again...
Did you have when you were growing up or in your school years or college years, where I know you said necessity, but at any point did you think, okay, if I don't become a doctor, for example, when you were thinking medicine, I'll go into business? Because I had a bit of that.
No, I didn't. I want to come back to that because I'm intrigued at where your business journey. But for me, there was no. I didn't like. My father was a builder, and he was obviously kind of self-employed, and I saw how difficult that was for him at the time. Like dealing with the same sort of things we as any business owner deal with, but there was never an inkling. My goal was whilst I was doing my PhD and after that, I want to become a professor in immunology or respiratory sciences because obviously relating to my mother. But then I realized, one, for me, time versus money in terms of being able to be present, being able to then be there for my wife, my daughter, now my parents, for me is much more of a goal than any kind of accolade of your senior lecturer in this. Because I tried that route. I had offers to potentially become a senior lecturer, stuff like that, but then I would have been stuck. And that's what was putting me off because the level of flexibility and autonomy that I needed, no job would provide.
So were you making this as conscious, calculated decisions at that moment in time?
I think
how cognizant were you of the fact you were making this decision on the principles that you're now explaining and the trade-offs that you were looking at?
I think I knew even in my postdoc, I knew for a while, but I didn't want to accept because the whole sunk cost fallacy. I was so deep in academia. After going through the ordeal of the PhD in the manner in which I did, I wanted to give it as much as I can to see if I land a good postdoc or lectureship and maybe try and make it work. But the further my mother's conditions because my mother had cancer, all number of things I had to deal with. At that time, my older brother was in Qatar. He was working then. My other brother was newly married at the time. So like, I was there, to kind of help as much as I can from everywhere, and people also helping as well. But for me, when that was getting worse, is when I realized that I need to do something different. But it was hard for me to accept because I put so much into this, right? So for me, there was no business idea. I had a failed startup, by the way, which I haven't even mentioned. Which was during COVID. Anybody tries everything during COVID, and some success stories from COVID, and some trials and tribulations. But during COVID, I was still doing my postdoc, right? Me and my friend, he bought the packaging, and I forgot to bring it today. I'll put it on the screen. Well, we started a compostable packaging company.
Okay.
That was just to trial something. Me and two kind of best friends just trialing something. Yeah. Again, not that I wanted to, I was purely now on the business route. I just wanted to try something. Like people try other hobbies. Yeah. It was more of a hobby and trying something. And the lessons we learned from that alone, oh my days, like, I'll share it because it hurts, but back then when you didn't have much money, we started it as a partnership. Because we thought, okay, we're two people. So I had no idea about sole trader, limited companies. I had no idea. So, okay, we're two people, it's a partnership, that makes sense. That's how naive we were. We thought there's two people, we do it as a partnership. And then we earned, maybe a couple of £100 from the compostable packaging. We designed the packaging, got it from China, put it in as much bulk as we could afford, tried to sell it out locally. No idea of marketing plans, no ideas of, profit and loss, no idea of inventories and the price points and, cash flows and whatever. And then as within your wonderful profession of HMRC, you get tax on partnership stuff. But we didn't know that we were trying to do it on the online form. We were struggling to do it. We didn't have an accountant and know what to do. So we do it on the paper form, not realizing the paper form is due 3 months before. So then we got penalties for it. But we didn't realize the penalties are per partner. And I remember leaving the university one day, and I'm called HMRC, got whacked with this penalty of about £900 or a little bit more. But it was £900 per person. And I was sitting there crying. I was sitting in the car, and my boss still calls her. The car park was empty because it was like a bit on the day that it was quite quiet. And I was breaking down, like, how am I going to pay £900 out of nowhere? Yeah. I didn't know. And I was like, and I asked to do a payment plan because I couldn't afford it at the time. And I was like, I remember saying to myself, don't give up. I remember I was broken. I'm struggling with academia. I was trying to do this at the start. I've now got a penalty. I haven't made any money, barely. How am I going to now pay £900? And I was like, don't give up. And throughout my whole journey to get to this point, there was all of that. There's so many times, and you'll agree to this as well, that you get broken left, right, and center. You get squeezed and pushed down the gutter, whatever you like it. So you get pounded and you get beaten down into submission constantly in business to a point where you should give up, but you don't. And that's the lesson.
And that's a really important point, and I'm sure that people will be hearing more from us as we share our journeys, not just the way we started, but as we do more of this. But that's the thing. Like, people think, oh, you're a business owner, you can make money in this, that, pay yourself the way you want, but you don't see what the trade-off for that is. Like, I'm not saying to anyone they should feel sorry for all of us business owners. It's a choice and what we do, and it's highly rewarding ultimately. But it takes a lot of metal, hard work, resilience, and all sorts of other things in shed loads of quantities to be able to get through it. I mean, alhamdulillah, my business is doing well, and it has been doing well. Yet,
when you show
example, Sunday morning I woke up in a mild form of anxiety attack, thinking I was going to tackle this week.
Oh, yeah. Imagine.
And that happens on quite a lot of days. You wake up, you think, holy, what am I going to do here? How am I going to get through this week? How am I going to get through today? How am I going to get... I'm taking a whole day out to shoot this today with my content early and then this now. And I'm like, I've got like 5 clients I need to call back. I've got letters I need to submit. That's the life of a business owner.
Yeah.
You have to make those trade-offs and juggles and stuff like that.
And it is, would you agree that when you sometimes think you're on top of it, the next day...
Oh, you're never on top of it. The moment you think you're on top of it, you slap yourself in the face, exactly. Look in the mirror and go, you're an idiot.
And it doesn't feel right. Yeah. Like, you feel like, hold on, my to-do list is a little bit empty now, because you've forgotten 6 other things you forgot to do 2 days ago. Right? Yeah. When did you, just to go back and, you mentioned you then got into the HMRC kind of graduate program. So how far from that point did you start ADL Tax?
So I started ADL Tax 2 years ago. So in 2024, April 2024. So that was, I started HMRC in 2013. I worked there for just under 5 years. I worked in large business service for investigation service. We can get into that at some other point. Left and joined. So I did the graduate scheme. So I joined as a graduate, did the scheme, became an inspector of taxes. So it takes you quite a high level from a graduate up to what is called a grade 7. So it's, you're very senior. And then I left. We'll get into the reasons some other point. And I was like, I went and joined an accountancy firm, and I switched sides literally. I went from here to there, inspector to advisor, like as 180 as you can get.
Yeah.
So I did that. I worked at one of, a top 10 accountancy firm, Mazars, for best part of 3 years. Left them for a bigger opportunity, a promotion. Joined BDO, the 5th biggest accountancy firm in this country, in the world by some measures, and then worked there for a couple of years as an associate director, and then set up myself.
But why? So when you ask me like the necessity to passion aspect for me and my journey as to why I started the business is very clear. Even though I didn't realize that there was a lot of passion involved indirectly. But for you, was it similar?
I think it is a very interesting question because you can answer it. I can certainly answer it in so many different ways. There's so many different stages when I'm looking at it in different angles. And each one of them will be the truth, because it was the truth at that particular moment from that particular lens or whatever the case might be. Which is, I was really intrigued with your side. That's why I was asking you more questions on it. And just for context, my job is to ask lots of questions.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah.
Given that I'm an investigator and I was a
I don't owe HMRC anything, right?
I'm happy to hear that. If you did.
At the moment, I don't know what's gonna happen soon.
But yeah, I mean, my skill set primarily as somebody who trained as a fraud investigator is to ask lots of questions. So which is why I'm kind of like, I'm always trying to get to the bottom of what someone says.
The root cause.
I'm really always intrigued. That's what drives me. And it goes back to the medical science bit, critical analysis, what makes what happen. And I remember one of the professors in the university is a very stark example. And a lot of my critical thinking goes back to this. And the example was of a very renowned research scientist, UK one, in that particular field, who had published a paper on how certain receptors in a cell work. Don't ask me why I remember that. I do. I don't remember much else. And Professor Barnes, who was taking that seminar for us, explained. And he showed us this. He's like, this is what he says. Is it right? Is that? And then we were breaking it down into what he'd done, what his baseline was. And it turned out somebody so respected and made a critical error in what he was comparing his data to. And as you know in science, research, a lot of it down to what's your baseline.
Yeah.
And if you don't get your baseline right, whatever the right technical term for that is in research, again, I've forgotten that part. Whatever you're comparing it to,
your preliminary experiments and all your primary sources,
completely out. And this world-renowned person had published a paper, no less, that made this huge error. So for me, I always go back to that point. I don't care what I get told. I need to make sure, is it the ultimate truth, as close to it as I can get? Don't get me wrong, as an advisor, I'm not as vested in it as I was as an investigator. So I'm always intrigued to go back to what happens. Now, for me, it's not a case of, to a degree, I can say it's necessity, but it wasn't necessity like it was for you. For me, it was always a case as I was growing up, I wanted to be a doctor to help people, but I also wanted to do it because it would fulfill what I felt my potential was. Intellectually, academically, financially, career-wise. And I always, without wanting to get too kind of into the, it's the worldly success type of it, I always have been driven and ambitious to get to that, whatever that looks like at that moment in time. So, simple example, even in a call center, I didn't stay put. I applied for promotion after promotion to get to the next, and I had about, in the space of 2 years, believe it or not, 3 or 4 promotions to get to that level. Wouldn't have happened if I wasn't built the way I'm built.
Exactly.
If I wasn't wired that way in my head, I wouldn't have done that.
do you think we need to be like that for even like for me? I used to go to like London. I didn't have much money. I'd take like a little, sometimes mini loan just to get to London to have one meeting because I was that invested in just grafting into the hot skin and like not sitting still, like being proud. Do you think that's such a
I
key
think so.
needed trait to be a business owner?
I think, look, people are different. And again, this is the whole point, right? We don't have to be, there's no orthodoxy in business, really. We're not the only unorthodox founders. That's why we're talking about it. You do what you need to do to get to where you need to get to, whatever that looks like, however it looks like, and whatever it takes within reason, right? I do think if you boil back and you strip back the, good business people who, whatever success looks like, right? It's relative for, different for you, it's different for me. Sure. The numbers are even different, everything else, right? But when you start peeling the layers back, you will see that drive. You will find that will and that passion to succeed, whatever the success looks like. And now it could be for someone, I want to help many people in the world with Y problem. And to do that, I need the business to do that. That's success for them. For others, it might be X billion or whatever, right? Whatever it is, you will find that those people are built just a little bit different, or at least those skill set have come out to the fore in a different way for them to do that. And for me, it was always a case of, I want to be the best I can be at whatever I do. My wife says this to me. She's like, you're a bit mental sometimes. You'll hear something and you'll take it to the nth degree and want to be good at it or to do it best you can, and you'll just get absorbed in it. I'm like, that's about me. That
makes sense.
That sums me up. Whether it was when I went to do my degree, I tanked a bit afterwards, but that was a different. There's just the way they played me was a bit
no, that's true.
I just then thought, I'm never gonna do medicine now, and I don't want to do it at postgraduate. I just want to get to the end of this degree because everyone's vested in it. I'll get it done. But I didn't care for it. But when I did my research project, I got a first for that.
Oh wow!
So my exams I didn't do as well.
I still can't believe you did it, and for the viewers, we've known each other for this long. I still can't believe his thesis was in angiogenesis.
I'll bring my report in next time.
Yeah, the next one.
You probably read it, go half you were half wrong. But I did. You know what the funny thing is, right? Is how life is. So the professor whose lab I was in, Professor Ahmed, is now, funnily enough, right? This is amazing. This is amazing full circle. I've now had him attend some of our business partner circle events through Mission Relief.
No way.
And I've gone up to him and shook his hand. I go, Professor Ahmed, do you remember me? I did this. And then he was like, looking back, goes, I do remember. He goes,
that's
you did
proper
that.
Full circle, man.
And so he's like, and that's just mind-boggling to me. How life comes, like I did nothing to do with what he taught me, or what I did in his lab. And he taught me some really important lessons. Again, going back to critical thinking, he taught me some very harsh, in a nice way, harsh, straightforward lesson about when you're looking at things, what is the ultimate truth? What are you looking for? How do you form judgment? All that sort of stuff. I remember presenting my initial results to him and he just ripped them apart.
As every professor does.
Ripped them apart, absolutely brutally. But I learned so much. And now I'm hosting him at an event I'm helping run. It's just amazing. But I don't know what I was talking about before.
But it's crazy when you talk about full circle moments. And the two points I want to touch on, which is one, when you had that critical thinking aspect, right? We don't realize how critical, pun intended, that is in all aspects of business. So, for example, in experiments, when you do back in the lab, you have negative controls, positive controls. You have this to ensure the data you get is exactly what you intended it to do or not do. There isn't caused by something unwanted that you didn't calculate.
You have to take account of the variables.
Exactly. We do it here.
We have to take account of the variables day to day.
Everything we do here, I make sure, I have
hit record.
I have a positive control here in Lano to make sure that things are recorded, right? We have these aspects to make sure that things are working the way they're supposed to, that there isn't some other variable that isn't here in the first place that could have caused any problems. When it comes to content, what do? We track. We A/B test. We do this. We're tracking as many variables as we can to understand the data.
And see, the interesting thing is, so me and you come from a background completely by coincidence in a way we landed. We didn't know this before we started working together. And even now we're learning things that we didn't know, right? So, but that set of skills you will also find in a lot of other business owners.
Yes.
Or what you will find is if those business owners don't have it, they will bring the people in who have that skill set. It is, I'm not saying it's paramount for you to succeed in business, that these skills are like you have to have them. But what you have to recognize is there are certain types of things, and I'm not over-egging the whole lab experience, but when you break it down into understanding patterns, critically looking at data, critically looking at what's happening in the world, what's happening in your business, how it all works, and what does it mean, that's a base skill level that me and you learn through academia and in the lab. But if you peel back a lot of business people, they will have that. And it's almost like if you can develop a bit of that
beforehand,
it will help you.
Massively. And I think to add, people talk about time management, project management. When you're doing a PhD, you're doing all of that whether you like it or not. But even I always go as far to say something that I learned a lot back then was energy management. And what I mean by that is sometimes it takes you 3 hours to write one email because it's a very important email and that drains you out. But you can sit there and analyze 10 hours of data and you'll be chilling because it's a very low energy task. It doesn't require that much brain power. A lot of people don't factor that in when you're planning your day. Like I know now when I was back then, I used to carve out all my experimentation in the morning, like sometimes late evening because of my mother was in hospital. The way I run the business now is I try to do all of my deep work in the morning, meetings are in the afternoon.
So, I mean, did you ever read all of these productivity books to learn that, or did you just learn that?
Do you want to know a confession? Alana's sitting here as well. Do you know all of these books you see in the studio?
Yeah.
They're from my personal collection when I was living with my parents. And when I moved to the house I'm renting it now, me and my wife were arguing like, there's no space to put this big box. We'll put it on the screen. There's a big box that's sitting over there. I've read less than 1% of these books.
Right, you just buy them.
I just bought them because it was like
I'll read it.
Like comfort. That's why I got. I'm very grateful to Sheikh Khalil to co-found the studio. So potentially I can sit in the studio sometimes and just take a book out and read it.
I'm sure you didn't know when you were buying them, but at least they come in handy as props.
As props now, yeah. You didn't know like 6 years down the line.
I mean, I'm not too dissimilar to you. I do like to buy a book or two. I'll be honest, not as many as yours, but I then fall back to listening to stuff. Yeah, it's hard to read.
No, I do listen to more like YouTube.
I read enough in university. I can't read anymore.
You and me, bro. Do you know the amount of research papers I read in those 4 years? I think I must have utilized about 2,000 trees in that time. And all the papers used to print out. Could use to read
textbooks being about that thing.
My thesis was that big. You know what I mean? But back to the point of us now being business owners, running ADL Tax, running Age Creative Labs. What I do want to at least share within this episode alone is what are some of the lessons you have learned in the 2 years alone? Because even for me, with Age Creative Labs, it's been essentially 2 years. That you think a lot of people make mistakes on when it comes to running a startup and a business. What would you suggest? Or
that's a very good question. Probably shouldn't have had all of that food before. This is clogging my brain right now to give me the thinking.
But it did taste nice.
Next episode, I want a cup of coffee next to me.
Yeah, we need one.
I think I need a.
Do you know?
So since we're unorthodox, I'm going to sit in an unorthodox.
I'll join you.
I'm going to relax myself. I think there's so many different things that people can get wrong in so many different ways when they're starting businesses. I think for me personally, it's a mindset thing that I go to, and look, people get wrong different things in different ways, all in their own way. But for me, the thing that I would call out or I would explain would be that running a business versus employment, which is what normally people look at, and I've made that journey, right? I went from employee, very senior employee, almost partner, not far off it, in accountancy firms, to my own business, is that you can very easily create self-employment for yourself when you make that move. What I mean by that is, in the literal sense, you end up employing yourself. And a lot of people have this fallacy or the fantasy of, I will get all of this freedom, blah, 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 right? And I was the same. I'll work 4 days a week. I'm going to work more than that. But that's a lifestyle business. And if you create that, there's a ceiling to that. And I very quickly not quickly, but eventually pivoted from that to say, no, I want something that scales. And they're all very different things.
Yeah, very different.
And that, I think, is the mistake people tend to make. They don't understand. So it's a very fundamental point I'm trying to get across. They don't understand what they're getting themselves into. And that's not necessarily a business mistake,
No.
it's a mindset thing. But I always go back to whenever I had the discussions like, oh, I don't like employment, I'm going to work for myself. I was like, do you know what that really means?
It's this over glamorization of entrepreneurship we see on social media a lot, where, you know, employment is this, you know, have your freedom, your time freedom, financial freedom, all of this. But your clients become your boss. A lot of people don't realize, right?
I don't have a boss. Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
Clients.
or every single client that pays you, that's your boss, whether you like it or not. And I think that whole self-employment thing, I agree, is very underrated, because you end up not hiring the right team to run the business. Because especially for me, I was doing everything myself because I couldn't afford to build a team, because it was this negative cycle of I can't get enough clients right now because I'm too busy doing all the work, and then I'm running behind all the time. Then edits were happening too late, and then it's like now like we're ahead on like clients because the team's now getting it done better, getting it done earlier. But that's the business. I'm running the business, not supposed to be necessarily in the business too much.
But how long have you been running Ace Creative Labs for?
So it was the wonderful name of Aamir Media beforehand, because I couldn't think of anything else for. I still got the email as well. A friend of mine said you need to change that.
Yeah, I almost went for SA Tax Advisory. So,
Oh,
so I know those
so
struggles.
it's been 2 years. So one give shout out I need to do amongst many was, so Amar from the Bay HQ. He was the Bay HQ is the British Asian entrepreneurs, playing the pun that he created, right? So, and they like a network based out of London that help with a lot of ancient entrepreneurs, give back to the communities, and a lot of junior budding entrepreneurs can tap into their network. And I met him because a friend of his, which was in America, was doing like writing on this website called Medium, and I was looking at it. I was, oh, you can write and earn money. Okay, great. And she, when I was going on her course, she recommended, oh, I've got a friend who's in London that you know can know. And I want to mention this point when it comes to business and entrepreneurship and networking. I messaged him at the start of the year, I think back in 2021, 22 or something like that. So stayed in touch here and there. By the end of the year, I was just getting in contact. Wasn't asking, just wanted to build relationships. People, they book a sales call and they want to think the next day. I waited a year necessary, not doing other stuff, but waiting a year. And he said, look, I'm starting this thing. Let's have a chat. I'd love to bring you on board. He's the one who taught me how to edit a podcast first.
Nice.
He taught me, and he was paying me out of his pocket, because obviously there wasn't much funding for the business. I think you call it social enterprise.
Yeah.
Right. So he didn't have much funding back then. So he was paying me out of his pocket to then run the podcast, which is interviewing Asian founders. So had he not done that, I wouldn't have started the journey of then building, like learning. I had the product photography clients. I had him. It started to snowball. It did a bit of extra money on top of like the part-time job I had at university. Yeah. But then it snowballed into then edits for other people, like YouTube edits and stuff like that. And then it now snowballed into now what we have, which is yourself and Wahid now. And to be fair, one thing to note is like it's been an honor to be able to be working with a client like Wahid. It's huge. And my friend who I started the compostable packaging company, my best friend based here, we said that it would be a dream. We said this 2 years ago, just in the conversation. Like, it would be a dream to work with somebody like Wahid, right? And then now they have collaborated on a reel that Lorno put together that's gone out, and it's with Ace Creative Labs and Wahid, and that's such a great moment. But that happened in this space of 2 years. That we scaled to the point where now got a team of 4 full-time members of staff. Which is a lot of expenses for somebody who's not new to business, right? Yeah. That's why I'm chasing up people so I can pay the team and pay myself. But yeah, it's been 2 years, and obviously Rahma Studios has been about 6 months to now get to. This studio was white and empty. Yeah. And
I saw the blinds being fitted.
Yeah, when you were here, yeah. So Sheikh Khalil's brothers who came, and even this paint to have the contrast between this took like 12 different iterations to find the right paint. That we ended up going to BQ, and I said, this all in business as well. It's like done is better than perfect, right? I like getting stuff done as opposed to, and it's a very cliche term on social media. I get stuff done and figure it out. I taught myself on YouTube on how to edit, and then just learned by getting told off that this is not good, that you made these mistakes. The amount of times I got told off by clients over the years, but that was a very brutal way of learning to get to this point now where I can deliver a podcast for somebody like Iqbal Naseem and stuff like that. a lot of people don't realize the grit needed and the idea of put it out there, learn from what people said, and then iterate, not the other way around.
I couldn't agree more with that. I think there's a very important business lesson from this so far in this conversation. It's that. Don't wait for perfection. If you're gonna go out, do it, learn, do it again, do it again, do it again.
Look at today. You're shooting the podcast, the YouTube videos in the morning, right? That's 4 YouTube videos. I was dealing with my newborn in the morning. I had to accept 2 hours today, right? We both had reasons to not do the podcast today.
But you
because it's not the perfect time. I'm half asleep. You're tired coming from Birmingham. It's a bit late now. No, you get it done. And that mentality, then what? Now that we've now shot this podcast, however long it is. Lana, how long has the podcast been so far? An hour.
We just got started, right?
We
already done one of the things you wanted to talk about. But no, even it's funny that you're saying that. As we were talking, I was thinking about what we could have done differently at the start. Now it's done, right? We might record an intro in a minute, and then we'll put that at the start. So if you've seen the intro, that was recorded afterwards, right? So, but I'm
Unorthodox.
So as we're doing it, we will learn. And maybe loads of people will watch this. Maybe nobody will watch this. But we've got to put ourselves out there.
We've got to learn.
Get through the experience. Invest the time. Yeah. Biggest thing is
forget just money, it's also time investment.
Yeah. And then you learn and you grow from that. And I think if anyone watching wants to learn things about how to do business and become founders and do stuff and make a good business, then start there. Put yourself out there.
The best way to learn is by and everyone we say it, but we're living examples of it.
Yeah. I don't think I would be where I am in terms of, whatever little or more I've achieved in my career if I didn't do that. If I sat around and waited for perfection. I need to do something. All right, let me give it a shot. It's like what my wife says. You get into something, you just want to do it and you want to do it well. That's a good start.
And also not listening to what everybody says.
You have a thick skin.
You have to have I went from... A lot of people used to ask me, even extended family at the time. I remember, oh, you've got a PhD in this, but now you're editing videos. Why? Because again, people see the short term. Why? Because of the prestige.
Oh, you could have studied medicine. Oh, you could have been you were the director in the firm.
Yeah.
Oh, why is the way the questions get asked as well is like you're wasting space when you're doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, you don't realize what the rewards of it doing are, right?
Because you're looking at the whole delayed gratification for both of us, and it's remarkable that alhamdulillah, where we are now and where we're growing is a testament to the ability to stay on that same path, even though people are trying to wobble you, people saying, why are you doing this, your waste. That thick skin is not just dealing with cash flow problems, that it thick skin from listening to what other people may or may not say. In the genesis of a project or business, for myself, it's you're way over your head, or why are you starting the business?
You gotta stick to your path, right? Whatever your path is that you've chosen, you stick to it. The rest will happen.
Yeah.
It's will of the Almighty, right?
Yeah.
Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, and people might have a different belief in the way they look at it.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a Muslim, that's our belief.
Exactly.
But people might look at it in a different way, and you look at it whichever way you need to. But ultimately, if you break it down, that's what people do. It's my way. I'm gonna do it. For us, it's a bit of an extra thing. It's not up to me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a release.
I
was saying to my wife the other day, funnily enough, it's going to be a proper tangent, but it's literally, I think I'm driving home from a morning walk or whatever. So we drop the kids off, and we will go for a walk. Again, benefits of being doing your own thing, right? Exactly, carve out your own time.
Yeah.
So me and her always, my kids start school super early, so drop them off, go for a walk. By 9 a.m. we're done. We're driving home, and I think it was one of those. I was driving home. I was like. And I was thinking about it the day before that something had come up. I was like, it's such an amazing thing to be able to just go, I've done what I can do.
Yeah.
It's up to him.
Yeah.
Leave it.
It's such a relief.
Move on to the next
It's
thing.
such a relief.
Yeah. It will happen or it won't happen. It ain't in my control.
Yeah. Just tie your camel and then
I've done what I'm supposed to do. And subhanAllah, that's such an amazing way to look at it. And whichever way you look at that, if you're not of the Muslim faith, then you still have to have an element of that. I'm going to do the best I can do. And the outcomes, to an extent, going to be out of my hands.
Yeah.
All I can control is the effort I put into it. Now, some people might look at that and believe it in the sense that I'm going to put as much effort as I can, so the outcome is not out of my control. My belief is it's always out of your control.
Yeah.
But what's in your control is to put that effort in. So you could look at it this way, you can look at it this way, but we're on the same point there. Make sure that you are not looking at it later and regretting, I could have done more.
Yeah. What if versus what is, I was sometimes always trying to focus on what you can control, just like you alluded to. Because something I try to do a lot with any aspect or any decision I make is I look at it as in terms of ranges. Like, let's say this podcast. From the lowest point of view, me and you have had a great conversation. That's fun conversation. Now we learn more about each other, build an even bigger bond. Lana's been sitting here listening to what we have to talk about for. He's probably learned a few things maybe of interesting from.
He's trying to stay awake, I can tell.
Yeah,
he's like, I
think you need coffee as well. But the biggest range is it goes out on the platforms. People benefit, people enjoy it, people learn some stuff. They get the motivation to maybe start a business, or they reach out to us. We'll have our stuff in the description. Everyone wants to reach out to us for what we do, or if you want to have a chat. That's range. Every decision, there is a range of what you can do. And if you can put it in a position where the decision you make, at the very least, is something positive, then you haven't lost anything.
100%. And I think when you get into that, right, for us, especially in this particular situation, and we can both say this, right, both from a main business perspective, and then this is not a business venture, really. This is more of a, let's see what happens here. But the reason we're doing it is we want to share our stories in the hope and with the aim, not just hope, because we're not hopers, right? No. It's not a word, I know that, but you know what I mean. We're not dreamers. There you go, a better one.
Keep that in, by the way.
Yeah. But, we're not dreamers in the sense that we put our best foot forward, because we wouldn't be where we are if we didn't approach things like that. But ultimately, the reason we've done this is to try and put ourselves out there, learn, grow. But if to an extent we can, our aim here is so we can help someone listening. It's not a vanity thing. It's not an arrogance thing. It's a thing of we'll share what we think is worth sharing. And in this day and age, that might help somebody. And we have a medium to be able to help somebody through this.
For sure.
So, I think you feel a sense of responsibility when you look at it like that. I certainly do as well. That if there are people out there who are in our position or where we were, we're slightly different ages. Don't be fooled by the white. He's older than
I've got
me,
cream and stuff. You can't see the grey. There's a lot.
I'm a lot older than him. But back in wherever we were, right? If somebody's in that position, and hopefully we can shortcut their journey, and they might look back and send some blessings our way and go listen to something and help. But the point is, like, if you didn't just do that, we wouldn't be here.
No,
kind of thing. We wouldn't be sitting here, and we wouldn't be learning so much about so many things, and who knows where this is going to lead to. But we do have an aim to an extent, right?
Yeah, a responsibility and an aim. And I think I can only speak for myself, and you can come if it agrees with you. But throughout my journey, I didn't really have mentor to lean on, or to, hey, look, I'm starting this. Do you mind? We learned it ourselves by trial and error through grit or through difficulty. And I think a lot of people can bypass so many steps by some advice or lessons that we learned, or even just belief.
I would say, for me personally, I think the difficulty I have with mentorship is that I find it hard to accept. Not necessarily accept, that's the wrong way of saying it. I find it hard to ask for help.
You're not the only one.
Yeah. And I know that, and that's why I bring it up. So I have had people I would consider as mentors, but they probably don't even know they were my mentors. I was learning off by watching them, but I wouldn't. Even now, I would find it very hard. I know some amazing people like you do, right? An amazing array of contacts that, by the blessing of the Almighty, that I've come to know these people, and I could pick up the phone and ask them. Like, these are, I would say, titans of their industries and hugely successful people. But I find it hard to do that. Yeah. I would find it hard, but I would learn of them. I see them, I learn of them. Yeah. If I meet them, I'll ask, but I find it hard to go out of my way. So another, for me anyway, added purpose here is, if you're in that situation, hopefully you, we're not, I don't know, but I'm not a very good mentor. I'm probably not someone anyone should look up to, but if there's something worth learning, hopefully we can give that to those people who might be sitting there going, who do I pick up the phone to and ask them that question? Because I know I've struggled with that. Yeah. But I will say I've had those people who've both looked out for me, looked after me in certain places, and those I would 100% say that was a mentor for me. Whether they know it, that they were, or whether even I knew it at the time,
yeah.
they were a mentor. They
Wow.
helped. I think we do differ in that journey in that way, which is again a different perspective of looking at it. But certainly, like in terms of when I look out there, were there that many people who blazed the trail that I needed to have blazed before me and made that path for me to follow? Not necessarily. That's
neither.
changing every day now.
Yeah.
But in that regard, for sure, I think there's a huge gap in the marketplace for people to step up. I mean that loosely, marketplace. We're not selling a coaching service here, but it's just like, one of my pet souls. But it's one of those that if people can watch us and talk about our ramblings and take something from it, then hopefully it helps someone.
Yeah, I don't think it's far-fetched to say that people hopefully will, and at least enjoy the conversation, because I think it's fun to share like the inner workings of business owners in two different remits, coming together, by virtue of how we did through Rizwan at the CEO event, and then now subhanAllah, how we're all working together. Amazing. And maybe all three of us will end up having a chat.
I find it fascinating to look back at where things started. Usually I forget though.
You
just reminded me that.
Do you know what?
I know he introduced us, but I'd forgotten the origin story to that.
Yeah, I was going to CEO events. And I think for me, one of the reasons also why I wanted to do this is to document stories and memories.
That's a very good point.
Because for me, one of the reasons why I picked up the camera back then was to document memories. Now, obviously, with my newborn, but also with the family. Like, I love taking pictures because it's kind of like a time machine. Like, you can remember a moment. And I think for conversations, like, who knows next month, next year, how things are going. That you remember we were talking about this back then. I mentioned to you about how 2 years ago I was talking about, it'd be amazing to work with Wahid, or it would be amazing to get this camera, or to get. I always dreamt of. By the way, there's big soft boxes you see here. I remember when I started shooting content in my bedroom, I had these cake tins. I remember you saw,
I know the story. You showed me. You brought it to the first shoot.
It's sitting at the studio. I might bring it here and put it as a montage.
I think we should.
So like that was my first light box. So I couldn't afford like soft boxes like this back then. There was like literally a cake tin wrapped with LED lights and some white translucent paper. I put it with some blue tack on a tripod, and that was my softbox.
Yeah.
Right. And those are great stories to tell. Like, this is where we started, right? And we've got these cameras here and these stuff, but it's you appreciate that when you document what was done before. 100%. And I think these journeys are.
And I think obviously document, reflect back in the first instance, and you look back at things and you go, that was different, wasn't it? That was difficult, wasn't it? I don't remember it. Now I remember it when I'm reflecting. Mm-hmm. It's like when I got married and everything else, and when I was doing my cars, and after I can, in some future episode we can break some of those journeys down.
Definitely.
But there were times where it was hard, financially and otherwise. Things were hard, and things got difficult, and things got like. But the point is, if you're in that place, just keep working at it. You'll get through it. You'll
appreciate that, because the other side is much sweeter when you appreciate the difficulties. When you're in overdraft or your credit card's in that because you're waiting on cash flow or whatever, you can say you've been there in the trenches, right, running a businesses or whatever it might be. When you see that, then you have a great amount of income stream coming through and revenue, because you've appreciated it because you've been in that trench. You're more grateful for it.
The funny thing is, right, it literally just dropped on me. I was trying to think how to frame it, but that my first proper job at National Express in the call center, it was a 30-hour-a-week contract, and what I used to get per month, BDO would charge for me for an hour before I left.
No way! Wow, that's
just literally, as you were saying, when you see things, you frame. As you were saying, it was going through my head, and it just literally, I've never thought of it like that before. It's just crazy how life changes.
I mean, don't
get me wrong, they won't pay me that much, but they'll pay me good.
Still.
But that's where my trajectory took me to. And that's just, fascinating.
I think we didn't realize these lessons or ideas because we never had a chance to talk about it.
Right? And it can be so contrasting, when you look at things, and it gives you perspective, right? And it makes you want to do even better. It makes you appreciate where you're at, and it makes you want to hopefully get somewhere where you can help others with that position.
I guess we'll end on the question is, do you want to do this again?
100%.
So do I, man. I've loved this, and I hope the audience members have as well. We're aiming to do this at least once a month.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of content going out of the podcast throughout that month period, and then I think at the minimum once a month, and then we'll see how things
Absolutely.
progress. Because
Let us know what you want us to talk about, what you want to hear. You've heard the origin stories pretty much today.
yeah.
He had a very long list of agenda. I could tell you, we've gone through like 2 out of the 200 questions.
Barely two.
I looked at that. I don't think we're getting through much of that.
It's Friday
Because I know how much I talk. I was like, we're not getting through that.
It might be a 4-hour podcast for that.
There's a lot we want to be sharing, but look, we want to build this for our audience. So if anyone does watch this, do tell us what you want to hear us talk about.
Do just comment in the description below.
And subscribe. Please subscribe.
Please. So we're just starting out, right?
Don't make us look completely silly.
Yeah, in about a month's time. But amazing. Salman, has been a pleasure. I think.
Likewise, Aamir. Thank you for pitching this idea to start with. I've really enjoyed it, and let's see when you look back in many episodes later on. We can look back and see how we rambled through the first episode and how much fun it actually was.
No, it's been great fun, and I look forward to doing this again in a month's time.
Likewise.
Cool.